Yeah, I'm thinking that it's too good to be true. We think a lot of the times. If it's really great, something wonderful comes into our lives, we're saying it's too good to be true. And then we're saying, if it is that, it's usually not true, when you get that thought. And that's devastating. And when you hear somebody else is saying it to you, it's just, of course. Why would I even believe that this?
We have compassion for that. We learn to have compassion. But every time we have those kinds of thoughts, every time I have those kinds of thoughts.
So you do still?
All the time. All the time.
Okay.
So I think it's a life's work until maybe it's not, but I don't know. Right now it's a life's work. Every time I have those kinds of thoughts, I know that I'm hearing from the past. I'm not in the moment. I'm not in the present. I've fallen out of the present. I've fallen out of my body into my head. I'm not falling out into the dreamer of what's possible. I've fallen into the past, and I'm hearing from a part of myself that's been hurt. Anytime this is too good to be true, or I'm afraid, I'm hearing from a part of me that has been hurt by someone. At a time when I was too young or not seasoned enough spiritually to understand that that it didn't have to be that way, but I allowed it because I didn't know better. So we always create our own reality. We do it by consciously choosing or by allowing. I allow it because when I'm very young, I don't know that I have that kind of power. And if somebody says, you're bad, if somebody says more subtly, we're not going to tell you you were adopted. You're going to find out. And then you're going to wonder, well, what was the big secret? Must be my fault. However it happens, we don't have enough lights on to be able to interpret our experience in more powerful ways. We're at a place now where we're beginning to become way more powerful, and we can interpret reality in real time in more powerful ways and hear the feedback, be attentive to the energy inside, the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions, the choices, the thoughts. Oh, this is too good to be true. That's a message from a part of me that was hurt. I don't even have to know who it is. Sometimes I do, and then I can vision that part of me and I can go and comfort him.
So we can expect, or we should actually expect only good things for ourselves.
Yeah.
All the time, and dare to do that.
And at the same time, the parts of us that were hurt are expecting bad things. So when they come up, that's why when we go to the edge, we hit resistance. You hear from all the parts that had bad things. Ah! I'm hearing from all the parts that have been hurt. All the parts that learned if you go off and you fail, there'll be negative consequences. Oh, don't go. So, yes, we can expect good things and know that we still have a habit of expecting also bad things. And when I am aware of that, I can love that because I can understand any person who had been through what I've been through or what you have been through without the wisdom would naturally assume that it'll happen again. And so I can have compassion. I can love that person out of a caring that comes out of a personal experience of sorrow. I have been there. I am you. I am the part of me that says, oh, it's too good to be true. Oh, I know how that feels. I can love him. And there's more.
What more?
I love him, and I can take care of him. Jesus said, suffer the little children to come unto me. He wasn't talking about kids out there. He was talking about these voices. That's what he was talking about.
Gnosis.
Gnosis. He wasn't talking about cute little urchins running in the road. He was talking about gnosis. So you hear those voices that have less tools. Their energy functions have actually made biochemical maps in our physiology. Our neuronal structures actually are wired and fired to support the ways that energy moves through our brain. Yeah. And we are aware of them, and as we put the clutch in it, the engine goes, vroom, and we love it. I understand, of course, I understand. The moment you love it, already you're shifting the frequency there. Already the brain is now wiring differently. We have this whole forebrain. What's it for? Scientists, we don't know what it's for. Well, I don't know what it's for either, but maybe this is a function of, maybe as we begin to put on these new capacities, gnosis, self-nurturing, now I'm directing neuronal attention. I'm wiring and firing differently. The old axons and dendrites are not firing the same way. In time, they're going to atrophy. And we know physiologically, if they're not in use, they atrophy and then they separate.
I was just thinking about that.
You have no memory anymore. It's over. And suddenly when you're speaking to your cousin about Christmas 20 years ago, she suddenly doesn't even remember that you ate her turkey leg. Because she's not feeding it with time and with space. She's not making it real. And it goes away. How many things do we experience that we no longer remember? They're gone. And one day you'll hear that voice, you'll love it. Oh, I hear you, I love it. And one day, you won't hear the voice.
I love that. Is that how we get into the flow? Because I read or heard you said somewhere that nature isn't trying to figure things out. And I thought that made so sense to me. Like, I'm trying to figure things out, and nature doesn't do that, and I'm nature. But it still gets complicated. Just think about relationships. It's so complicated. We disagree. I don't approve of what you're doing, or you fall in love with somebody that you can't be with. It's complicated. She has kids, he has kids, and how to make it simple?
It's not simple. It's elegant, but it's not simple. I've been very blessed around relationship. If I did all the challenges in my life as well as I do relationship, I've been married now for 33 years.
You have a beautiful wife. I just met her.
Wonderful wife. And we met at a party, and
I love these stories.
This is a really good story.
I love them.
Story.
Okay.
So we met at a party, and she invited me to dinner the next day. So I went to dinner. I had been living in Los Angeles like 4 days, and I had one suit. Fortunately, she liked the suit. And so I've been living in LA for 4 days. I go to have dinner with her. And so like about 5 o'clock, we're having dinner. By 11 o'clock, we're living together.
Oh, my goodness.
And we've been together ever since. We were together from the first day. So I am really good at relationship. I do that well, which either makes me incompetent to speak about relationship or makes me an expert. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. What I understand about relationship is it is a lot of work. It's a huge trigger. primary loving relationship will trigger every pattern we have about love and about mattering and about belonging. It will trigger these things more powerfully than any other experience in our lives, which is why the way of relationship is a spiritual path, which is why when you stand up to be married, they say, richer, poorer, sickness, health. Right? Okay?
You sure?
Are you sure? Are you really sure? Because this is a mirror. And if the mirror, sometimes, we have arguments, and not so much anymore because we've been together for 33 years, but I remember like around 12, 15 years, we'd have these big arguments, and I'd say, there's no way, I'd be tempted. I'm out of here. And I'd say, yes, I'm going to be out of here. So that in 5 years, I can be right at this point again with another woman. I'm in it. It is a big, big trigger for every early hurt. We were talking before about this is too good to be true. I'm going to get a new job, or I found a parking space. It's too good to be true. It's always a voice from, it's a haunting from an echo of my past. It's a ghost story. In relationship, every challenge is a ghost story from some ancient part of me that was hurt by my mother, by my father, by children that I played with, but mostly by my mother, by my father. That's not to make them bad. It's not to make them wrong. They did the best they could. I love them. But they were not me. And so when we are raised as children, we're raised by people that know better for us. And that's simply part of what it is to be human. They know better for us, and in many ways they do when we're very small. But then parents don't let go easily. Have you noticed? Yeah. They don't let go easily. I have a 25-year-old daughter who is graduating with a degree in spiritual psychology next week, and beautiful. I still don't let go. I still hear myself saying, she was on her way, she called this morning, she's on her way to jump out of an airplane someplace in Palm Springs. And she said something about her ears are blocked. So I hear in my voice, oh, you're going to go in an airplane, maybe you shouldn't, maybe. So I'm still, it doesn't end. So I still that part still pretends I know better than a 25-year-old woman. So we are the product of these things, and it hurts. When we're little, these are one thing after another, after another, after another. It hurts, and it erodes our spirit in some ways. We get to a point on the spiritual path where we have to kindle our own spirit. We are reborn to kindle our own spirit. And in relationship, we have these disappointments, and what we are hearing from are the ghost parts of ourselves that were hurt. And sometimes, most often, we don't even remember the specific hurt. We just remember that hurt. And what we also remember is, I know better than you do. And I'm hearing somebody say something, and underneath it, what they're saying is, you know better than me. And those are fighting words. And on the other side of it, they're hearing you say, you know better. And lots of times in relationship, our actions, the actions we take deprive somebody else of their independence and their spirit. So I may I may do something. What's a good specific example? I don't want to betray too much of what's going on in my family because Sandy just left the room. But since we're alone, so right. sometimes I'm driving along in the car. I'm driving, and my wife Sandy is beside me, and she'll go, "You're going too fast. You're going too slow," or
classical.
She'll put her hands on the roof like, it's classic, right? It's just classic. And
You're safe.
I get crazy. I get so crazy, and I get mean. So this obviously has nothing to do with the speed of the traffic for her. It has nothing to do with she's saying she's frightened to me. What happens is she is expressing some kind of desire to be in control that has nothing to do with driving. It has to do with whatever energies that are at play. And here's a good example that she can channel into traffic. She's going to be in control. And then I overreact because I am hearing from a ghost of my past that says, I will not be controlled by my mother or my father or my teacher or my friend. And so that's a tiny little example of the complexity of what it is to be in relationship. Tiny, 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 tiny little one. Or another example is, I hear Sandy sniffling, so I will go and bring her some cold medicine. And then fight with her. Why didn't you take your medicine? Why didn't you? And she at one point she said to me, "You are not my caretaker. And when you do that, you are robbing me of my own experience around, I have a different agenda around, I'm processing this experience, this cold experience. I'm looking at it from somewhere else. And you are robbing me of my own experience. You didn't ask me. You're just assuming you know, and you are stealing from me. Now, if I was younger and less aware, you would simply be robbing me of my growth. So you're stealing from me my own experience. And what's another piece of it is you're doing it because you're uncomfortable.
Right.
So this has nothing to do with me. You're doing it because you're uncomfortable. And so you have fallen out of your body into your head, and you are no longer present, and now you are trying to get comfortable by controlling me. So these are the kinds of dynamics. Now, when you say, well, why is it so difficult? These are like the little baby pieces of why it's difficult. Now, on the other hand, it doesn't have to be that difficult. It's complicated, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. There are certain underlying beliefs and expectations that we have around relationships, particularly around dating, and sometimes around, I have a pattern that I find somebody and it's just fantastic for 6 months, and then...
And that's dangerous because it kind of, you're thinking in your head, oh, it's never going to work out.
And so you are expecting, and you have a diluted sense of desire. Those are your big tools of reality creation. The third one is imagining, and you're using all your imagining skills in order to imagine an outcome that is being fed energy and attention that is not going to work. And so what happens?
Makes sense.
Now, the dynamics of day-to-day relationship are complex. The ones like I gave the two little examples. But inside the safe arms of a relationship, you can fight. It's okay. There's room for it. It's a spiritual path. In order to get into the game, there are certain threshold beliefs. And so one of the things to do for somebody that's in that kind of situation is to begin to take stock. See what's on the shelf, like you're in a store and you're taking stock of the inventory. What is actually on the shelf there? What would be my expectations? What am I really expecting? So let me just write them all out. As many as I can think and more. I believe that it always, what are my patterns? What works? Well, I always get into a relationship and it's always great at the beginning and then it falls apart. And I realize I'm always afraid of that. And every time I meet a woman, that's right within 5 minutes, the first thing is, wow, that woman is great. The second thing is, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So what is now, write it all down. Why won't it work? It won't work because of this, because of that. And why do I know that? Because that always happened. Well, when did it happen? Happened this time, happened. Write it all out. Okay. Write a whole history. Mm-hmm. So take a whole diagnosis of yourself. Right. Then carry it around. Okay. So every time you have that thought, you're going to know where it fits on the chart. Mm. You're going to say, well, this is my history. Is this all that there is to me? Mm. Obviously not, because there's a part of you that wrote the chart. Mm-hmm. That part of you that wrote the chart is not inside the chart. There's nowhere on the chart. The part that is able to identify that stuff has a bigger agenda for love and a bigger expectation. The part that wrote the chart expects love and knows that love can be had or wouldn't have bothered to write the chart. Mm. So every time you hear a thought or you have a feeling or an emotion, you can look at your map and you could say, this is old territory. I'm hearing from a ghost. Right. Now, you don't have to annihilate the ghost. You can't. That's like trying to be detached. Mm. You can't, there's no such thing as detached. You can be detached from the snowflake, but not from the enchantment. So, you want to understand that that's my map, those are my patterns, and even while it feels like, oh my God, I can't ever get out of these patterns, just the loving it. I'm going to love that. I'm going to love that person. I'm going to love me for that, because anybody that had been through these things is going to feel that. So I'm going to give some compassion to myself. I'm going to love myself. Already you've changed the frequency. There's no longer the same note. You're not banging the same note anymore. Now you're banging two notes. The power of the second note of love far outweighs the power of the first one. One little drop of compassion shifts the whole thing. So already your brain is now in chaos. It's not wiring the same way. You're now wiring a new thing. And you feed it with attention. How long have I fed my patterns of that map that I've written out for myself? How long have I been feeding them with desire? How long have I feeling them with giving them attention, making them real, giving them space, giving them a dimension? This is real. This is real. Oh no, it's too good to be true. Here we go again. How long? So now I'm going to leave that in place, and I'm also going to love that person. Of course I understand you. No wonder. Of course. Of course. And now I understand it even more, because it's a pattern, and I love you. And of course. So you feed that for a while. Feed it for a week, a month, a year. At the end of the year, you're not going to be the same person. And you'll get into the game.
Thank you. That was really wonderful. It was like this whole circle that I love that. Okay, last question. Do you think you were meant to meet your wife? That it was meant to be?
Yes, but not necessarily maybe in the way that you're saying it.
Okay.
It was meant to be because I chose it. And because, do I believe in soulmates, if that's what you're saying?
I guess.
Yes, but not in the way, not necessarily in the way. I'm sure that the romantic, I even made a movie about soulmates, so, but
What dreams may
what
come.
dreams may come. Mm-hmm. I don't really, I like that as a romantic notion, and I am sure that it happens. But I think what is far more frequent is that we meet the love we think we deserve.
That's interesting. Wow.
That's much more frequent. And sometimes those are soulmates because sometimes we keep doing the same one over, and sometimes that works out, and sometimes not so good. But,
wow, and then it's so important to change the feeling you have inside of what you deserve.
yes, yes. And sometimes when you change that, you'll meet somebody that you may have done the dance with many times, or you'll meet somebody who has the same qualities, might as well be the same person you've done the dance with many times. And if you feed that love and that compassion to your map, you will meet somebody who is not running exactly the same map. And now you're in the game.
Okay.
Now you're in the love game.
I love
So
that.
when I met my wife, I had a very clear voice. She said to me, I met her, we moved in the first night, and the second night, she was going to New York. And I said, well, I'll just hang out here, and I'm looking for an apartment. And I was writing a project at the time, and we would talk on the phone every night, and I was looking for an apartment. And she said, I think I love you. It was just on the phone. And I said, whoa, wait. Now, I would never, just that I said, whoa, I would never have said that because as a young man, I'm not proud of this, but I was more of a player and not terribly, not the nicest person around relationships. And I'd never had my heart broken, and I didn't understand that. And they never went to any depth. And yet I, for whatever reason, I thought, I'm going to do this differently. So I was willing to be different. I was willing to be changed. I had met someone. It's clear to me that we have a lot of, that she is my soulmate. Yes, but she's clear, she's my soulmate because I chose that. There is no out there soulmate that is going to be the person out. There is nothing outside. Outside is a reflection of what's inside. So when I am calibrated inside, the outer screen is a holodeck. It's just a view. It's a periscope. And so there is no thing outside of me that is going to change who I am. It works the other way around. Was that a good answer?
Yes, that was a wonderful answer and a wonderful end of this interview. And I heard some noise. I think she's coming home.
Oh, good.
Beautiful
Or
moment.
it might be your parents.
It might be. Yeah. Thank you so much for this.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. This was wonderful. And thank you so much for watching,
you.
guys. And much light from Malibu.